Welcome to American History Notes. We're talking about Jamestown still and the Jamestown colony, so I'm going to get right into it. The Jamestown colony needed a cash crop that would make money, property rights for colonists to give them a stake, and liberty. This it received in the 8 years between 1616 and 1624. The first factor was tobacco, which used for export was discovered by John Rolfe, who married the Indian princess Pocahontas. This was in 1613. He crossed seed from the West Indies, the Caribbean, and local Native American tobacco, which produced a pleasingly smooth smoke that grabbed the English market. This made several fortunes, but also made the colony more dependent on England for supplies. A special group to oversee the bringing in of supplies was formed by the wealthier members of the colony called the Magazine. In return, it gained a monopoly for selling tobacco to England. However, King James hated tobacco and thought it a dangerous, noxious weed and a very bad habit, himself writing the first paper against its use called Counterblast to Tobacco. It's free online, you can read it. The owners of the colony were able to convince Parliament not to ban it in spite of the king's objections. The institution of private property was the second factor that saved Virginia. When the hired men served their contracted time of 7 years, they were allowed to be tenant farmers and then given the land outright, which increased their stake in the community. Captain Smith commented that when people were fed out of the common store, a sort of communism, many were lazy and tried to get by with doing nothing, but when they had property of their own, their productivity increased manifold. Within 10 years, tenant farms extended for 20 miles up the James River. And you can see how this was eventually overthrown to get cheaper and cheaper labor by reading Allen's book, The Invention of the White Race, The Invention of the White Race, Volume 1 and 2. Excellent work, explains how the labor demand changed and how freedom was tossed out. The third factor was liberty, with English rights granted to all. Arbitrary rules abolished and a representative assembly formed to pass local laws allowing for the company veto. This fulfilled the promise first made when the colony was founded that English rights would be had by all, but we'll see how that is betrayed. The last factor was the effort to bring in young women to be wives. This afforded a family situation and stabilized the community. So I also think you should read the White Cargo, which is about Irish slaves and English indigent and poor people, women and orphans who were kidnapped and forced into slavery in the New World, sort of slavery. Basically slavery, in fact. The first legislative assembly in America was summoned in 1619 by Governor Yardley, elected by all men, including foreigners. The foundations of liberty were set, but with an ominous for the future entry of Black Africans, 15 of which were purchased that year by the governor from a Dutch ship, according to Paul Johnson. Technically, these men were not slaves, but indentured servants who would gain their freedom after a period of years, and many did at first. But things changed, and we'll start again next time. I really enjoyed this, and I hope you got something out of it. Study. Thank you.